Hi guys, welcome to my Draw My Life video. This video was really hard for me to make. I said some things that I haven't revealed to anybody else before, so thank you for taking the time to watch it. And I suck at drawing, but enjoy. Okay, so my name is Farah Dhukai. It's pronounced Farah, like a dungeon dragon, and apparently people with the name Farah have a deep desire for love. Farah also means joy, happy, and traveler. My background is from the continent of Africa. My parents and their parents and so on and so forth are from Africa, and my mom's from Tanzania, and my dad is from Uganda. So in my family, there's my dad and my mom and my sister and my brother, and they're both older than I am. And my brother had this really ugly Beatles haircut growing up, so that's why Drew has hair like that. And then I was born on December 12th, 1987. I was the baby of the family, and when I was born, my mom's mom moved from Africa to live with us, and I love her so much. For a large part of my childhood, I actually thought it was an accident because of the age gap between my brother and my sister and I. And my brother actually convinced me that I was an accident because he told me that one time, like, he had another sister named Farah, and my parents actually sold her with a car that they had because she was so bad. So then he was forced to clean the new car that my parents got, and he was cleaning it, and he saw this really ugly thing in the back, so he took me out and he washed me off, and he was like, "Oh, what is this ugly thing?" And then he went in and showed my parents that it was actually a little girl, and he convinced me that my parents decided to keep me and call me Farah, and I was so scared that they would sell me again. I don't really remember much of my childhood, but I do remember when I was 3 years old, I was obsessed with the Mario Brothers, like obsessed. My dad got us a Nintendo around that time, and I always used to make my sister play and get me the princess. And like most little girls, you would think that I wanted to be the princess. Well, actually, my dad was Mario, and I wanted to be Luigi all day, every day. And if somebody asked me what my name was, I was like, my name is Luigi. Like, don't get it twisted. In front of my house, we had this huge hill, and my brother would ride his bike down the hill, and I thought he was just so cool. So I actually tried it when I was on my tricycle, and I ended up falling onto the sidewalk at the bottom of the hill because I was like, YOLO! And then my mom came out and she yelled at me for copying my brother and doing dumb things. And then we went to the hospital and they put a huge cast on my arm and it was like the size of my body. But then I became like a little rebel because I survived that little incident. And I was like, I'm so cool now. And I used to do like bad, rebellious things and I'd get in trouble all the time. So when I was like 3.5 years old, my parents decided that they wanted to move more north and out of the Toronto area. So we sold our house and we packed up and we just went north because my dad already bought a house there and I really liked our house. It was really nice. I loved the court that we lived in, but school was a major culture shock because we were like the only Indian family there and I was like the typical Indian girl. I had blunt bangs, I had hair down to my butt, and my mom thought it was cute to dress me in sailor outfits. Like I was like the Indian Sailor Moon, but I was sailor uncool because I was really shy and I talked in a whisper. And I remember like one time this boy asked me, he was like, "Did you play in mud?" Because my skin color was different, and I was just like really shy and upset, and I was like, why am I so different, and I was just like, I hope there's more like me out there. Yeah, because there weren't that many Indians around besides my cousin. So I remember one time in kindergarten, we were playing and it was picture day, and I was just like running around, and this evil boy, I'm not gonna say his name, he tripped me and I actually fell straight on my face, like right on my nose, and I got the biggest cut on my nose. And if you look at my picture day picture, I'm like smiling and there's like this really ugly scar on my nose, and it's just really sad. So while I was in kindergarten, like 2 months later, my family, well, me, my mom, and my grandma, we actually decided that we're gonna go visit my mom's sister in Mombasa, Kenya, which is in Africa. So we went there in like December-ish, and I was really excited because I turned 5 years old there. And I loved Africa. Like I loved my cousins, I loved my aunt and uncle, and I just had such an amazing time there. And I remember I used to like play in the alleyways, and I'd like play with all the stray cats, and I'd feed them. And I saw one that I loved, and I'm like, "You're mine." So I took it home and I showed my mom, and everyone kind of freaked out. My aunt and uncle spoiled me and they let me keep it. And they actually kept it for a really long time afterwards, and I named it Thiemery. Don't ask me where I got that name from. So we were in Africa for like 2 or 3 months, and then I had to go back because I had to go back to school. And I remember I had to do like some presentation, and I did my presentation in a whisper, and I pretty much didn't know my ABCs. I was like A, B, C, D, line. And I didn't know. And like the teacher told my dad that I needed to stay back in kindergarten. My dad was like, no, we're going to teach her at home, and she has to progress. So, for a large part of my childhood, my brother was my best friend because my sister was apparently too cool for school and I was too young for her. My brother was evil. I remember one time he's like, kiss my butt, otherwise I'm not going to play with you. And I actually kissed his bare bum. It was like disgusting. And I remember we used to play hockey and he used to put me in net with no equipment, nothing. I'd just stand there and he'd take slap shots at me and he would just laugh and he's like, don't cry, be a man, don't cry, or I'm not going to play with you again. And one time we played David Copperfield in my basement and he tied me to the pole and I was like, he left me there. And I was like, oh my God, what am I gonna do? And I didn't really struggle. And then my grandma actually came down and like saved me and untied me. And my grandma, my nanima, is my hero. I love her so much. Me and her were like BFF. Like she's my everything. My whole life we were just so super, super tight. So now let's fast forward a couple years. I was 8 years old and I was blossoming into a hairy little caterpillar like most little brown kids. I got glasses that were too small for my face. I had like a unibrow. My mustache was coming in nicely. And I hated showering. Like I was so scared to shower. So I actually really smelled. Like I was a real Disney princess. So the summer before grade 4 started, I had some trouble breathing through my nose, so I actually had to go in and get surgery. And I felt really cool about it because I got interviewed in the local newspaper and it was so exciting. I had my surgery on Friday the 13th and the surgery went well, but the doctor told me to eat ice to heal the wounds. So I actually ate this jagged piece of ice and it opened up one of my wounds and it was really, really scary because all I remember is just throwing up so much blood and I don't remember anything after that. So, like 2 weeks later, I went back to school, and like school had just begun, so none of the kids really knew me that well, and I was kind of that girl who was gone for the beginning of the school year. So, I was really, really shy, and I didn't really have that many friends. And I actually like went home and I learned yo mama jokes from my brother. So I'd be like, "Your mama's so fat," and I tell all these jokes, and I actually had this booklet of mama jokes, and all the like popular girls started liking me and be like, "Ah, you're so funny," and I actually started getting so many friends and I was so excited and that's when I met my best friend. So by this time I had a lot of friends and life was great. The boys at school didn't really like me and think I was very cute because I mean clearly I had a mustache and my milkshake brought all the boys to the yard. Check my Instagram if you want to see an ugly picture of me by the way. But I didn't really care because I actually found the man that changed my life, and I vowed that I would marry him when I was legal age. And I know you're thinking, like, oh, you met your husband. That's so cute. No, my friends, no. I actually met my husband when I was watching wrestling with my brother, and he was like, do you smell what I'm cooking? I was like, yes. And that man is The Rock. At that moment, I became like so obsessed with rock. Like I had his posters all over my room wall. I had his t-shirts. I had every magazine. And I'd think about us getting married in the future and like running off together. And I was just a freak. Like I had serious hopes that we would actually be together. So moving on to grade 8, I was like 11 or 12 years old, and I was clearly blossoming into the prettiest girl ever. I had this really ugly haircut. I cut my hair short. I had this weird flipped out haircut, and I had like unibrow, my mustache, my sideburns and goatee grew in just nice. My arm hair was just like, my arm hair looked like sleeves. And I wasn't allowed to shave, so I had super hairy legs too. So my mom was like, no, you can't shave. And all my friends had boyfriends and girlfriends, and I was just like, man, I just want cake and The Rock. And that's pretty much all I thought about. And I thought like he'd be like, oh, I love you, Farah. I was actually like the biggest tomboy ever. I went to my grade 8 prom in a Vince Carter Raptors jersey, and I finally got to shave my legs. Well, not shave because my cousin Fadine promised my mom that she'll wax them for me so they won't grow out so bad. So thanks, Fadine, for that. And then the summer afterwards is when I really started blossoming into a girl. I became close with my sister, and I started borrowing her clothes, and I grew out my hair, and I started wearing her makeup. And I don't think she was embarrassed to hang out with me this time because my mustache was gone. I wasn't a hairy little caterpillar anymore, and I was actually a girl. And then high school started, and I loved high school. Like, I had friends that were from my old school, and I met so many new friends, and I was making so many friends. I was so happy, and I actually met my best friend there, and we're still best friends to this day. I remember I used to wake up early and dress up every single day, and then grade 10 started to come around, and I started finding myself becoming a little more antisocial. All my friends wanted to party and go out, and I was just thinking about my sister and thinking about my grandma and just thinking about going home. Like I really didn't want to be there. So around the end of grade 10, I met this boy who was older than me, and I actually didn't like him at all when I first met him. I was just like, go away, you're so annoying and obnoxious. And I didn't have a cell phone then, so he'd actually call my sister's cell phone to talk to me. And I was just like, no. And I just, I thought he was so annoying, but I couldn't stop talking to him for some reason. So we finally met up at this place called the Scarborough Bluffs, and it was so cool, so pretty there. And I actually had a nice time with him, even though I still thought he was pretty annoying. So we actually continued to talk for many, many years, but more on that later. I actually found myself becoming more of a tomboy and just kind of more antisocial. And my best friend, who I mentioned earlier, she actually became friends with these girls who like hated me and they'd call me like dirty Indian and they'd call me gross and they still send me hate messages to this day, which is like whatever. I didn't really care though because I had my new best friend, I had my grandma, my sister, my mom, my dad, and I forgot to tell my brother, but I had my brother and I had this boy that I was talking to, and I just loved life. I loved everyone in my life, and that's all I needed. And I was just really content with what I had, and I had really no idea what I wanted to do in the future and what really my other purpose in life was besides hanging out with everyone that I love so much. And all my friends by the end of grade 12 were like thinking about going to uni and going to work, and I was just stuck in this bubble with no idea on what I wanted to do. And then graduation came along, and I graduated from high school, and I was still like, okay, now what? So a little while afterwards, I was actually on the phone with that boy, and he was like, what do you really want out of life? Like, what do you enjoy doing? And I was like, I don't know. And then I thought about it and I was like, I actually love makeup and I love hair and I love everything about beauty and it's just what makes me happy. So he was like, go for it and encouraged me. So I signed up to the School of Makeup Art in downtown Toronto and it was a 3 month program and I loved it. I loved playing with makeup and learning new things and it was just the best thing ever. But I was actually really, really shy. So after I graduated, I didn't freelance and ended up just being at home. And then I thought in my head, I'm like, okay, I want to move to New York City. And I talked to my dad about it. And my dad was like, I don't know. But then I told him, like, Dad, trust me, everyone will know my name. And I was really, really ambitious. And he finally agreed to let me go. So in February of 2007, I moved to New York City. The move was actually really, really big for me because I've never been away from home, and I actually lived with a friend close to Manhattan, and I enrolled in the Aveda Institute in Soho, and I loved it. But when I went back home to my apartment, I was actually really, really sad and lonely, and I really missed my grandma. And at that time, she had actually had an accident. She was in the hospital, and I was so sad, and I just wanted to be at home with her. And I used to cry every single day. My friend had a cat that would actually lick my tears away, and it was really, really cute. And in March of 2007, I actually went home to visit my grandma, and it was so much fun. I loved it so much. And I remember asking her, like, are you going to miss me? And she's like, no, because you're going to make all of us really proud. And I still remember that to this day. So while I was in New York, I pretty much had two personalities. Like, there was just two sides of me. Like, one side was so happy. Like, I loved New York. I was a dreamer and I was so confident in myself and I was excited about the future. But the other side was really sad and depressed and lonely and angry. And I just wanted to go home because I missed my family so much. So after about 8 months in November 2007, I graduated from the Aveda Institute and I felt great. I was so confident. I was a dreamer and I was like, hey, maybe I can actually do this. But I was really, really happy to go home and see my family and life was just good. I went back really, really confident. I actually went to go visit my grandma in the hospital and I spent so much time with her there. And I actually used to talk to her about that boy that I was talking to on the phone all the time. And I was like, I really like him. And like, she was the only one that knew about him because my parents were really, really strict. And she'd like encourage me and be like, if he's a good boy, go for it. And she's like, yeah, get your license so that, you can come visit me anytime and you can take me out. And I was like, okay. So I got my license on November 30th and I called her and she was so excited. So on December 1st, 2007, my grandma actually called me and she was like, the nurses didn't tuck me in properly. Can you come tuck me in and see me? And I was like, yes, of course. So me and my sister went and we spent some time with her and it was just perfect. Like everything was perfect that night. I was on top of the world. My grandma was happy. But then after a little while, she started getting tired. So I tucked her in like I always did for my whole life. I kissed her on her forehead and I stared in her eyes and I said, if you need anything, call me and I'll be here. And I remember that moment, like it was so perfect. She looked so beautiful and she looked in my eyes and she was like, everything is fine now. Like I can finally sleep in peace. And I didn't get what that meant at that time. So I went home and I thought everything was fine. And then on the morning of December 2nd, 2007, my life changed. Like my brother walked into my room at 8 o'clock in the morning and told me that my grandma had actually passed away in her sleep. And I felt my heart break and rip out of my chest. Like it felt like I was stabbed with a knife in my heart. I felt really, really lost for the longest time. She was like my purpose in life, and I felt like my purpose was gone, and like she had taken my heart with her, and I just felt really, really empty and sad and depressed, and just felt like I lost my whole life. I was really angry at myself for moving to New York and only having 1 month to spend with her before she passed away, and I felt like it was my fault, and I just really hated myself. I felt empty and I felt like I could have prevented it, like if I was here in Toronto. So I actually had two personalities again. Like one part of me, like I would smile and laugh and show everyone that I was okay because I didn't want my family and like that boy that I was talking to and everyone to worry. But really on the inside, I was really depressed and really, really sad and brokenhearted. And I felt like a piece of my heart just went missing, like it was just empty. The next couple of years just flew by. Like I was just at home. I would get jobs and only work for like 4 hours and then I'd quit. I had no ambition. I didn't care about the future. Just there was really no point in life. And I just kept thinking about her and like living in a memory of her. And I wouldn't appreciate that boy that I was talking to. And I couldn't see like what was right in front of me. Like I had my family, I had him, I had my best friend, I had everything. And like he'd try to help me, but I just didn't want anyone in my life. And I'd act happy in front of people, but when the doors closed at night, like I just think about her and I'd want her back and I'd cry and I'd ask God like why he took her from me. That was like the only thing that mattered to me. If you keep thinking about the past, you can't move forward. So all that confidence that I had in New York was gone. I was shy, I had no ambition, no future, nothing. I didn't really care. And then 3 years later, I was just browsing the internet and I came across one of Michelle Phan's videos and I was like obsessed with her. I was like, oh my God, I really admire what she's doing. She has so much confidence and I just love that she's doing something that she loves. So I called that boy and I was like, look at this girl. Like, I just admire her. And he's like, you should try it out. Like, go for it. Like, you have nothing to lose. So then I got my camera and I started recording myself and I was still really, really shy and you can see that I wasn't confident on camera. So I was just like, okay, I'm not uploading this, I'm making a fool of myself. But then after a little while, I got my sister because I feel confident around her and I filmed a video and I finally uploaded it onto YouTube and I had like no views on it, but I was actually really, really happy that I was confident enough to actually put it onto the internet. And if I'm being honest, like I really didn't expect anything from uploading my video onto YouTube. Like I just wanted to do it for me, just to get my confidence back and just, get out there. But over time, my channel actually started growing and I started getting these comments about how I've changed someone's life or I've made someone feel beautiful and just happy. And I was like, really? Like I did that for you? And like it started making me feel really happy and it just felt really, really good. So time went by, I started getting more and more comments, I started making more and more friends, and it was just like overwhelming for me. It was like crazy. I was like, I can't believe like I make people feel this way, and it started making me feel really happy and started filling that little empty spot in my heart. And I thought about my grandma, I'd be like, oh my God, like she'd be so happy to see this right now, and it just made me really happy. After that, I started letting myself be happy and I started thinking more positive thoughts and things in life just kind of started working out. So I really believe that when you think positive, like positive things happen to you and you have to focus on the positive. And shortly after, on February 14th, that boy actually blindfolded me and started taking me for a drive and I was like, yo, are you gonna like kill me? Because like I know karate, bro. I don't really know karate. But anyways, he was actually taking me to the first place that we ever hung out at, and he waited a little while and he took off my blindfold and he's like, do you know where we are? And then he had a ring in front of him And of course, I said yes, but it was just crazy to me that like I couldn't see what was right in front of me. Like he was there all along, trying to fill that empty spot in me, and I just wouldn't let him. And over the next little while, I started wedding planning because we decided to get married in October of the same year, and I started spending time with my family, and life was just good. And I noticed a really big change in me. Like I started thinking really, really positive, and I allowed myself to be happy. And now when I thought about my grandma, like I wasn't sad or angry that she was gone. I was actually really happy and thankful that I did get to spend that time with her and thankful that she was in my life. So on October 2nd, I married my Superman, and I just feel so happy in life. Like I see a complete 360 in the way that I used to think before and the way that I think now. Sometimes you can think that life is over, but really life is full of surprises, and it's actually just beginning because when one door closes or when you lose something, you gain so much. And that's exactly what happened with me. Like, I had my husband, have my dad and my mom, my brother and my sister, and I gained a new family. Like I have the most amazing in-laws. Like I love them so much. And I even have a new brother, like a little brother. Like I've always wanted a little brother and now I finally have one, and I'm just so happy in life, and I know my grandma is watching down on us and she's happy and she's at peace. And I have all of you. Like, I'm so thankful to have all of you because I feel like that empty spot in my heart is filled with so much love and so much happiness, and you guys helped fill that empty spot in my heart. And I know it's going to sound super cheesy, but seriously, from the bottom of my heart, you guys don't know how many ways you have helped me. So I just wanted to say thank you for helping filling that void in my life. And if you ever feel like life sucks and there's just no purpose in life, just know that life always has a way of turning around. You just have to think positive and let yourself be happy and love and laugh and smile, and because that's the meaning of life. And honestly, like if I didn't get to say goodbye to my grandma the way that I did, I think things would be really different for me and I'd be in a really bad place right now. So I just want to let you guys know that like if you love someone, don't wait to tell them, whether it's your mom, dad, brother, sister, baby, cat, partner, sloth, anything. Just tell them that you love them. Like don't wait. And as for me and the future, I don't really know. Like, I'm still a wanderer. I don't really think about the future. I just like to live for today and enjoy every moment that I have today because I really believe that tomorrow is a gift. So maybe we'll have some babies. I don't know. We'll see. And I'm going to end this video off following my own advice. So I just wanted to tell you guys that I love you. Like, you guys have truly changed my life in more ways than one. And I just wanted to thank you for that. Thank you for your love and for your support and just always being there. And thank you for helping complete me and letting me be me. So thanks for watching, guys.